Marcus is 28 years old. It is a Tuesday night in October, and he is sitting in his car in the parking lot of a Whole Foods in Austin. He has not gone inside yet. He is doing the math on his phone for the third time because the number that keeps coming back does not feel like it should belong to him. $83,000 a year. That is what he earns. And he has $412 in his checking account, 6 days before payday. Behind him in the backseat is a navy blazer he bought last weekend for a wedding he is in next month. It still has the tag on it. $320. He keeps thinking about a sentence his older brother said at Thanksgiving. Something about how your late 20s are not actually about how much you make. They are about 3 decisions you make almost by accident. Marcus did not ask which 3. He nodded like he already knew. He does not know. If you are watching this in your late 20s, there is a version of Marcus inside your phone right now. Maybe the income is different. Maybe the city is different, but the feeling is the same. You are earning more than you ever have, and somehow the gap between what you earn and what you keep has gotten wider, not narrower. And you have started to suspect that something structural is happening underneath your spending that you cannot quite see. That structural thing has a name. It is called the decade decision window, and it is the most expensive period of financial invisibility in the average American life. Between the ages of 26 and 32, the average person makes 3 quiet decisions that will compound for the next 40 years. Not loud decisions, not decisions that come with paperwork, the decisions that feel like preferences, like personality, like just who you are. And by the time you notice they were decisions at all, the math has already finished writing itself. I am going to walk you through all 3. I will name the darkest one around the 7-minute mark, because it is the one nobody talks about, and it is the one that costs the most. But first, we have to go back to Marcus in that parking lot, because the navy blazer is not the problem. The blazer is a symptom, and the difference between a symptom and a mechanism is the difference between a decade you buy and a decade you spend. The first decision is the one Marcus is making in that parking lot, and he does not know he is making it. It is called identity anchoring, and it works like this. Somewhere around age 26, your brain quietly decides what kind of person you are financially, and then it spends the next decade buying evidence to prove it correct. Think of it like a thermostat. You did not set the temperature on purpose, but every time the room drifts above or below it, your spending kicks in to push you back. Marcus did not choose to be the guy who buys a $300 blazer for a wedding. He chose, at 26, to be the guy who shows up looking like he belongs. The blazer was just the thermostat doing its job. Here is what that costs. The average American between 26 and 32 raises their lifestyle spending by approximately 41%, while their income rises by only 23%. The gap between those 2 numbers is not a math error. It is identity, paid in dollars. Over a decade, that gap consumes around $117,000 that would have otherwise compounded. The implication is harder than the number. You are not losing money. You are buying a self. Pause for a second. Think about the last 3 large purchases you made. Were they things you wanted, or were they things the version of you in your head needed in order to keep being that version? The second decision is optionality surrender, and this is where the external villain enters. The system is designed to extract optionality from you at exactly the age you have the most of it. Car loans stretch to 84 months. Apartments leased at the top of what you can afford. Subscriptions that auto-renew before you remember signing up. Each one trades a future choice for a present convenience. Consider Priya. She's 29, makes $96,000 in Chicago, and her fixed monthly obligations consume 73% of her take-home pay. She is not in debt, she is in scaffolding. Every time an opportunity appears, a better job in another city, a chance to take 3 months off, a friend starting a company, she runs the numbers and the scaffolding says no. The cost is not measured in money. It is measured in the number of doors that quietly close while you are paying for the room you are already standing in. That is decision 2. Decision 3 is darker. The third decision is called comparison compression, and it is the one almost nobody is willing to name out loud. It works like this. Somewhere in your late 20s, The people you grew up next to stop being on the same timeline as you. One of them buys a house. One of them gets engaged. One of them posts a photo from a country you have never been to. And your brain, which evolved to track your standing inside a tribe of about 150 people, now tries to do that same tracking against an infinite scroll. The compression is what happens next. You take a decade of someone else's decisions, condense it into a 15-second video, and compare it to a Tuesday night you are having alone. It is not a fair comparison. Your brain does not know that. Here is the cost. A study from the Federal Reserve in 2023 found that adults between 26 and 34 who report frequent financial comparison on social media save approximately 38% less per year than peers with identical incomes who do not. 38%. That is not a small leak. That is the entire architecture of a future, redirected into proving you are keeping up. The implication is the part that stays with you. The people you are comparing yourself to are not your competition. They are your costume. This is the decision that does not feel like a decision. The first two cost you money. This one costs you your sense of where you actually are. You can recover from overspending. It is much harder to recover from no longer trusting your own measuring stick. Pause again. Whose financial life are you measuring yours against? And have you ever actually asked them what their account balance is? You already know the answer is no. The comparison is happening anyway. Here is what I want you to do right now, before we get to the part where this becomes solvable. Most people watching this will feel something land in this exact section, nod, and then close the app and forget within 40 minutes. The whole point of the next 4 minutes is to make sure that does not happen to you. If this video has named something you have been feeling and could not say, subscribe before you forget. The cost of leaving now is that you walk back into the same decade. We are going back to Marcus. He is still in the parking lot. And what happens next is the part that matters. Marcus is still in the parking lot. Something has shifted. He puts the phone down and looks at the Blazer in the back seat. For the first time, he sees it for what it actually is. Not a purchase. A vote for a version of himself he has not actually chosen, cast inside a system designed to count those votes for him, against people whose ballots he has never even seen. That is the whole thing. 3 mechanisms. 1 feeling, identity anchoring is the thermostat. Optionality surrender is the scaffolding. Comparison, compression is the costume. They are not 3 separate problems. They are 3 faces of the same question, which is whether the next decade of your life will be authored by you or assembled around you. Here's the part that makes this manageable, instead of crushing. None of these decisions require a windfall to reverse. They require a return of the thing they quietly took from you, which is the pause between the impulse and the purchase, the pause between the obligation and the signature, the pause between the scroll and the comparison. 3 seconds. That is the entire intervention. 3 seconds where you ask one question: whose version of me is paying for this? If the answer is yours, proceed. If the answer is anyone else's, the decade is still on the table. Marcus drives home that night. The Blazer stays in the back seat. He returns it on Saturday. He does not feel proud. He feels something quieter. He feels like he just bought back a Tuesday. Here is the governing idea I want you to carry out of this video. Wealth in your late 20s is not built from what you earn. It is built from what you refuse to outsource. Your identity, your optionality, your measuring stick. Outsource those 3 things and no income will save you. Keep those 3 things and almost any income will be enough. In the comments, I want you to do one specific thing. Tell me which of the 3 you have been outsourcing the longest and what it has cost you so far. Not in dollars, in doors. The most honest answer in this thread is the one someone else needs to read tonight. Most people will bookmark this and never come back. The ones who do are the ones who actually change. If you are still here, you already know which one you are. Subscribe. I will see you in the next one.